In this video, I'm going to show you how to travel for free with credit cards. In the past 2 years, I've taken over 50 plus flights for free and have made over $25,000 in credit card points. So let's get into it. Here we go. Travel for free with credit cards. Here at the top, what you'll see is the 3 major credit card companies that give you good cash back, at least in my experience. And again, this is for both business and personal, right? Each of these companies have their own business and personal cards, and they're both beneficial. So as we go across the top, Capital One has 2% cash back on average for most of their cards. And the 2 cards they have at the bottom, which I'll touch on, have 2% cash back. Then American Express has 1 to 2% cash back, and Chase has 1 to 2% cash back. So I'll also touch on which companies and which credit cards are the best for hotels or the best for flights. Now, it's important to know as well that each company has their own travel portal all through the company, right? So you're able to access flights, deals, hotels, cars, and so much more all through the portal. And their pricings are actually very, very consistent compared to how they would be through Skyscanner or through one other flight platforms, which I will show you, right? Now, also important to note, each card and each company has their own intro offer, right? So if you're actually able to spend, like, let's say $10,000, which is very doable and possible with e-commerce, right? Specifically, then you're able to hit a intro bonus where it is like, let's say spend $5,000 in 3 months and get $1,000 in credit card points, or spend $10,000 in 3 months and get, $750 in credit card points. So as far as I know, because I've taken advantage of all of these, Capital One, American Express, and Chase all do intro bonuses. Now they're different across every card, whether they're personal or business, and some have bigger offers, right? The bigger cards, they have annual fees and so on, but they're very advantageous because if you get $1,000, you can pretty much travel anywhere in the world, one way at least. And for some places like Europe, from the US to Europe, you travel back and forth for free, right? Just off of the intro bonus, right? Of signing up with them and being a customer of their credit cards, right? So let's dive into it. Let's go with Capital One first, because this is one of my favorite actual companies. And these are 2 of my favorite cards for both personal and business. So what you're going to see here is the Venture X card here on the left. I have this card as a personal card. It is 2 times cash back. So every time you spend $1, you're basically getting 2 cents, right? So if you're spending $1,000, you're getting $20. And I know you're thinking, like, that's not that much money. How can I travel for free with flights? We're going to go into it later, into Skyscanner, and go through some online softwares where you can actually see the prices of flights within Europe or within Asia and see how cheap they are, right? So like I said, if you spend $10,000 over the course of a year, that's $200, right? And that's basically just free money you're getting back from the company because they want you to do business with them, and they're happy to do business with you. And these companies all have top class customer service. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with each of them, but they're awesome. They all have travel agents. They all have their own portals online where you can contact the travel agent. You can actually book directly online or go on the portal. So there's many aspects to utilize with these, and getting that 2% cash back is awesome. Now, with Spark, right? Capital One Spark for business. Now talking directly to people who are in business or doing e-commerce. And this is very beneficial for e-commerce people, which I'm going to continue to talk about, because in e-commerce, you spend money on inventory. Specifically in my business, I spend money on Amazon for Amazon FBA. I have to spend money on inventory, so it comes back on an ROI and I get profit. So if you spend $10,000 a month, 20, 30, 40, you can see how it adds up in cash back, right? And we're going to touch into that later in the chart. Now, if I go across American Express, they're between 1 and 2% cash back. And of course, Capital One has 1% cash back cards as well. But Amex is really beneficial too, because their portal is a bit different than Capital One, and they have different offers. They partner with different airlines that can take you different places and so on. Now, 2 specifically good cards for them are the Amex, the American Express Business Plus, and the American Express Gold. They both have intro offers, which will take you from here to Milan and back, all right? And probably from here, which I am in the US, to Thailand, okay? So the intro offers are really beneficial to take advantage of, but aside from just those, you're getting cash back on everything you spend. Now, if you're going to spend this on, getting cars or hotels, which a hotel may be $100, in the US it might be a bit more, but if you're going to do it overseas, right, on a family vacation or a trip, then, you can get hotels for even cheaper, and, that's spending whatever it is, right, $2,000 or $10,000 and getting $200 in cash back, right? And, Amex has their 1 to 2%, but also it's important to note, all of these companies, Capital One, Amex, and Chase, which we're about to get into, they all have different cash backs on different categories. So you can actually spend get 5% cash back on groceries, 3% cash back on gas. And each company does it differently. And obviously for businesses, it's done differently because there's more advantageous categories or not. Like fine dining or dining, you get 1% cash back, right? So like there's so much opportunities. On average, you're gonna get 1 to 2% cash back on most of the categories. But there's categories like if you book travel through Amex without using your points and you spend money on it, you can get like 5% cash back. And if you're spending like $3 to $5 grand on a flight, you're getting a ton of money back and cash back to basically spend on your next flight or your next hotel or next car, right? And now they're adding stuff to their portals, every single one of these companies, on different stuff you can spend on, like food, like, random stuff where you can pay bills. You can even pay down your balance for it, right? But let's move over to Chase. So there's 2 credit card examples there for Amex. There's no personal credit cards there, and I know there's a ton, but those are 2 quality business cards that I also both have had or have right now. So Chase, we have the business cash and we have the business preferred. Now, like I said, there's personal cards as well for Chase, which are really beneficial, but Chase is between the 1 and 2% cashback area as well. But Chase is actually my second favorite travel points company. Capital One is first. And they're second favorite because they're so beneficial for hotels that I found. Capital One beats them out in flights. Capital One is actually better in flights than Chase is, but they're really beneficial for hotels. So if you have a good combo between Capital One and Chase, you can actually get flights and hotels for free depending on where you're going and so on, right? And especially if you're spending enough money, right? Which I'm going to go into it, how it actually works and so on. Now, and Amex is my third favorite, as you can tell, kind of going down the list. So let's go through some examples. If you spend $1,000 at 2% cash back here with Capital One, let's dive on into it. And that becomes $20 in travel credit, right through their portal. They're going to say you have 2,000 miles, right? Because they 100x it. So they're going to say you have 2,000 miles, but it converts as $20 in travel credit, right? So now you're going to say, well, what does that get me? $2,000. I spend $2,000, whatever, right? But it can get you a lot. A lot of these flights within other countries, even in the US, there are a lot of advantageous places like from New York to South Carolina or New York to Florida, right? You can get some pretty cheap flights. Now with Amex, let's say, for example, you spend $1,000, you get 1 cent back, which is $10. So you get $10 in travel credit. Now, as you take this on a bigger scale, which I'm going to show you how I do it in my business with Amazon FBA and other people I'm sure with e-commerce, you can make a whole lot more money on a monthly basis. All right, let's go through Chase. Now, be in the mindset of Chase being, hotels, right? Chase is the dominant player for hotels. Capital One is for flights, and Amex is kind of a mix of everything. But Chase is also good for rental cars. All right, so important to note, Chase is good for rental cars and hotels. So $1,000, 2 cents back you spend, you get $20. That's $20 in travel credit. I have here written 10, typo, right? But now you're getting $20 in travel credit, which you can basically use for a car. That's like a car for a day in Europe, all right? If you're in Ireland or Milan, you could basically spend like $10 to $20 to get a car for a day. But if you do this times 5, the car is free for the entire trip, right? So let's open this up now. What we're going to dive into here is some examples on a bigger scale that you're going to see maybe with an e-commerce business or some type of business in general. If you're a business owner that spends money on inventory or tools, equipment, salaries, so on, if you're putting it on a credit card, then you're able to capitalize on it way, way, way more, right? So for example, let's go down the list here. For example, here on the left, if you spend $10,000, all right, you're going to get and at 2% cash back, let's say with Capital One, we're going to use Capital One and Chase's 2%, for example, here. But you're going to get $200 cash back. All right, that's pretty good. Now, if you spend $25,000, you're going to get $500 cash back. All right, that's really good, right? Now you're flying from Boston to Rome or vice versa for free. Okay, these are for free that these companies are basically offering this for you to do this just from being a client or customer from them. And as you go on the list, 50,000 becomes 1,000, 75,000 becomes 1,500, 100,000 becomes 2,000, right? And if you do this over a monthly basis, that's unbelievable numbers. You're flying for free every single month, which is what I do. And I'm going to talk about in a second. So let's open this up and let's go to Jay's spend, right? This is my specific spend. And this is literally my Google Sheet where I track all of my spend. I pulled it here onto the chart so you guys can see it for yourself. Now, in June, which was actually a higher spending month for us because every month differs on spending for inventory and buying profitable products. It's different, right? But I spent $74,000, $119.67 on inventory. That's going to make me money for the business, right? Which at 30%, 40% ROI makes a really good, healthy income for the following month, right? Which I can reinvest the capital and spend that money again, right? It's not just going away into the universe where now I'm just like blowing through money, which if you want to do personal and you're spending it on food or so on, even though you're just giving the money away and it's not going for inventory as if it was e-commerce, but you're still getting the cash back and taking advantage of the free money as long as you're responsible to pay it off and such, right? So that converts to $1,482.39 in cash back. That pretty much gets me anywhere in my fiance, anywhere around the world, at least one time, one way. And coming back, I'd have to probably spend that again for next month if I'm coming back from Thailand or the Philippines or something like that. But that's pretty much round trip to, Rome, Milan, and Naples in like low season for Italy, and pretty much round trip to Barcelona, Madrid, or Portugal, right? In any season, okay? So it's very, very cheap and very, very affordable, those flights are, and which we're gonna dive into right now here on Skyscanner to actually show you guys what the price for flights are. And then you can put it in your own head and say, okay, if I spend this is what it's gonna turn into in a month or 2 months or 3 months, and I actually can fly for free in those vacations and so on, right? So let me open this up. Let's go here into Skyscanner, all right? So we're gonna move over here onto Skyscanner, which is the best. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but they are the best, basically, search engine for flights that I've found, right, personally. I haven't used them for hotels or car rentals, but I'm sure they are great, all right? So because what they do is they take the price from all the other companies, like Kayak or Agoda or Booking.com, all the companies that basically offer the flight, and they pull it all into the system, and they present you with all the prices from the companies all in one on their software. And then when you click on the flight to actually book it, like it takes you directly to the company, and you can just book through their portal and so on. So it's really, really effective. So I have here Boston to Tokyo because I'm going to be doing that at the end of the year. Like I said, I've earned $25,000 plus in free cash back, and it's growing more and more as I spend more and more money. And like flying to Switzerland in September, it's free. Also, my fiance's flight is free. Flying to Tokyo and the Philippines when I'm in Tokyo and Thailand and back, it's free. Okay. So as you can tell, if you spend a lot of money in cash back, you're just flying for free. And those hotels in Switzerland, also free. All right. So let's type in here, for example, Lisbon, popular city in Portugal, to Madrid. All right. I know they're decently close by, but let's just figure, okay, somewhere within Europe. Okay, you can do Switzerland, you can do wherever, but if you're doing somewhere within Europe, it's going to be affordable. If you do like long stays, of course, it's not going to be affordable. All right, this is the month of August here. Portugal to Madrid, to Spain, basically, right? You can see flights here, 31, 31, 34. Let's actually click on them so you guys can actually see them. Let's just click on a $34 flight. Let's open it up and let's see what the cost look like. All right, okay, it's $42. It's scanning. Skyscanner is doing its scanning magic. You can see here, it does all the scanning to go through all the airlines and flights to make sure, all the providers says, to make sure that we're getting the cheapest deals. And then it's going to be all the flights throughout the day that are going from Lisbon to Madrid. As you can see here, there's different companies: EasyJet, TAP Portugal, all right, Air Europa, okay, European companies. The flight here, one way, I know it's 7 a.m., you got to get up early, but it's one way is $42, $42 to travel from Lisbon to Madrid. So if you're in Europe, if you're doing a European summer for 3 months, or if you're traveling through Europe, traveling through Asia, which we'll get into, you're actually going for free from Lisbon to Madrid. And this is what I did when I very first started traveling and I didn't have enough money to actually start paying for all these flights and spending $500. I was just traveling for free from, Torino to Barcelona, from Lisbon to Madrid, and so on, right? I was literally paying these prices, and all I had to do was spend my cash back, right? So if you're spending cash back and you're spending $1,000, you're getting $10. But here, to basically fly from Lisbon to Madrid for free, you have to spend $4,200. It's 4,200 points. That's how they classify it. All right. So that is basically, I don't know how much you're going to spend your money in your personal life, but in business, that money goes away like this, right? And anybody who's running a business understands how fast that money goes, whether you're spending on inventory, softwares, inventory, and so on. And in my case, obviously I spend 14 or 15x of that every month, but you're actually flying for free. Okay. You're flying for free. And that's just one example. Now we're here in Europe, all right? Because in the US, I know it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but then you just have to spend $10,000. And if you're doing it on a personal card, it's a bit more harder, but it's still possible. Okay. You can still spend the money, and basically you're just getting free cash back. Okay. You're getting free money back from these companies, and you're booking it through these companies. So you have the protection, you have the customer service, all through them from being a user. Now you have to be responsible, of course, but it's all free, right? So let's say, for example, here, I'm just doing broad searches here, Thailand to the Philippines. All right, let's see what happens here. Obviously, these are major cities, so it's harder when you're flying like to non-major cities. But even ones that have a stop are still super, cheap. Right? Even ones that have a stop and so on are cheap. All right, kind of have a different angle here. We're going Thailand to the Philippines to Manila, Bangkok to Manila. All right, two major cities there. Two major cities from Bangkok to Manila. All right. Let's see what we got for prices and how much we have to spend to fly for free from Thailand to Manila. Because if you're living out there, or if you're traveling through there, which I'll be doing at the end of the year, I'll actually be taking this exact flight, Bangkok to Manila, the end of the year. This is what I'm going to be spending. Well, I won't be spending it. My credit card points will be spending it, but this is what I have to basically earn in cash back to do this for free. And now, you don't just have to have 100% of the cashback points to do this for free. Like you can have $40 and basically get half off of this flight, right? If you weren't able to earn all the money you possibly could, you could just do this half off, right? So here we go, right? We are here on Skyscanner's website for DMK, which is one of the airports here in Bangkok, and then going to Manila, 3-hour flight, $85. There you go, $85, 3-hour flight from Bangkok to Manila. All right, so you have to spend $8,500. On personal card, it's harder, like I said, but in a business, it's much easier. As I said, I've spent $74,000 this past month, so I can fly from Bangkok to Manila 70 times over and back and still be traveling for free. Now, obviously, I'm doing longer term flights, so those are more like $400 or $500, which I have to continue my spend to get those points for free. But as you can see, you can continue to travel for free. We go back to the board here. You can continually travel for free with all of these different places as long as you're spending the money and getting the cash back and you're taking advantage of the big credit card companies. Yes, I'm sure there's other credit card companies, but these are the big ones. You can trust them, great portals, great customer service, great utilization, and it's just easy to work with. You make a phone call, you get it booked. You got their portals, you get it booked. And most of you guys probably have these credit cards anyways for personal basis or business. So, utilize them, take advantage of it, spend with your credit cards as long as you're responsible and you can pay it off and so on. But they're giving this back to you guys as a free bonus. And like I've said, I've traveled to over 50 cities on free flights, just free flights, like going back and forth, all free. And it makes it a lot easier to travel and to go from places to places because you're not spending money on the actual travel. And if you actually incorporate it into hotels as well, which I do here and there, you can also get the hotels for free. So now you're just paying for food in these countries, all right, which is also cheap. So it's kind of like a travel hack, right? So take advantage of it, look into it, do some research. But that's a video on how to travel for free with credit cards and the 3 major credit card companies. There you go.